Hello, everyone. I'm Shigang. Thanks, Victor, for the introduction, and thanks, Victor and Steve, for their kind invitation. It's our pleasure to let the SVP of XtalPi, Travis Hu, and I come to Barcelona and meet everyone today. And we want to show our capability in the solid state and to see whether we can solve your problems together with Solitek. The title of my talk today is Enhancing the Enhanced Solid-State Solution, Advancing Drug Development Through Rational Design and Structure-Based Analysis. The first part is the overview of the solid-state study in XtalPi. And I think as Sudhakar and Steve has mentioned, and I believe most of you know the fact that solid-state study research is an essential step in the drug development process. It's a bridge between the drug substance and the drug product. For API molecule, it can form different solid state forms, free form, hydrate, solid, salts, and different solid states can perform different physical chemical properties. And generally, for the solid state study, we hope to screen multiple polymorph solid forms and then evaluate systematically about their properties and find out one form that is with suitable properties and also with good stabilities. So the traditional approach for the solid state study following this procedure, first is we try to screen as many solid forms as possible by extensive crystallization, such as salt screening, co-crystal screening, polymorph screening. And then we characterize them, characterize all the discovered solid forms by different technologies, such as TGA, DSC, XRPD, DVS, to evaluate the crystal phase and their properties. And then we try to solve the crystal structure of the most interested form with a single X-ray diffraction method. And next, we are able to select one optimal form based on the overall research study and use that as the leading form for further development. And as you can see, the whole process is more like crystal form is more like discovered instead of by design, right? And we always hear that crystallization is an art. And the experimental design actually really relies on experience, this experience from the scientist and also the instruments we have in the laboratory. But in another area of research, such as drug discovery, we know that the process is a little bit different. In the drug discovery, we first use computational tool to generate a lot of virtual molecules. And then we predict their properties. And then screen for molecules that meet our property requirement. And then we synthesize them, characterize them, and then finally validate the experimental and in silico results together. So the one question is, can we do similar thing for solid state research? Can we transfer this discovery-driven research to a more rational design and design-led research? So to achieve this paradigm, we need to do, there are several problems we need to tackle with. The first problem is how to generate those crystal structure, which means that how do we know potential crystal structures once we have the molecular structure? To solve this problem, we can use a tool called crystal structure prediction, which means that after we got the 2D diagram of the molecule, we can predict how many stable structures existing theoretically for these systems. And then the next question is the estimation, predict the properties based on those predicted crystal structures. And there have been a lot of achievement in this area. And right now, we can use some computational tool to calculate free energy, which means that evaluates the stability of crystals change with temperature, pressure, and even humidity. And also, we can use crystal structure and computational tools to evaluates the solubility, solid-state NMR, and the morphology behavior of the crystals. And then the next question is, how do we prepare the predicted crystal structure? And this is actually the most challenging part. So far, we haven't really, from XtalPi, we haven't really solved these problems. It's a world challenging problems, but we have made some progress by having an AI-driven polymorph strategy, which can give you some experimental recommendation before the real experiments. And then we do the experiment to really increase the efficiency and the success rate in obtaining suitable solid forms. And another question is, how do we characterize them? And how do we really do this comparison between experimental and in silico? There are a few tools that are available in XtalPi. We can use XRP indexing and some refinement algorithm to build the connection between predicted structure and experimental structure. And also, we can use microED, a new technology to solve crystal structure directly from crystalline powder, and then use that experimental structure to validate our prediction. So, in sum, we want to make the transfer for the solid-state research from a discovery-based research to a more design-based and data-driven methodology. And the next part is some detailed introduction about our platform, and I will show you some case studies. Here shows the overall procedure, overall platform for our solid-state study. On the top part, as you can see, we have an intelligent crystallization platform. Here, in the salt or co-crystal screening process, we can virtually perform a screening first to give you recommendation for the counter-ion, for the conformer, and even for the solvents you can try before the experiment. And then for the polymorph screening part, we have an AI-driven polymorph strategy that can give you recommendation for the experimental work. The recommendation includes the solvent, the method, and even sometimes the temperature. And then the experimental work can be executed by traditional way by scientists or by the XtalPi's automation platform in-house. And then as for the structure determination part, we can use single XRD and the macro-ED together to solve any crystal structures we have interest. To make the whole study more complete, we can do the crystal structure prediction in parallel at the same time along with the experimental screening. In the CSP, we are able to predict how many stable crystal structure exist in the systems and also tell you which one is the thermodynamic most stable structure at ambient condition. So by combining the experimental work with the theoretical work, crystal structure prediction, we are able to give you a more complete picture of the polymorph landscape in these systems and tell you which form is the thermodynamic most stable structure with more confidently. And then after we select a suitable form for further development, we can scale it up to kilogram level in lab and then do the tech transfer for your further manufacturing. Since this year, we are happy to partner with Solitek together to provide this overall solid-state service for the European market. And next, let me briefly talk about how we do CSP, how we perform this crystal structure prediction. So first, the input is only the 2D diagram of this molecule. And also, of course, if it's a multi-component system, we need to know the stoichiometry of the systems. And then after this part is confirmed, we will generate conformation analysis for the molecules. And based on all the conformers, stable conformers, we will be able to generate millions, even sometimes billions crystal structures, theoretically. And then we will filter out the high energy structure by different round of energy ranking. And later we will clustering those structures to remove some abundance in the crystal structures. And finally, we are able to give you a so-called energy landscape at 0 Kelvin. And then this energy landscape is at 0 Kelvin. It doesn't represent the room temperature condition, right? So we will choose some low energy structures to perform the free energy calculation so that you are able to know theoretically which form is the thermodynamically most stable form at ambient condition. And this whole process can take 2 to 8 weeks, depends on the complexity of the systems. And since 2017, we have de-risked over 400 API systems. And the molecule right now in the market, it become more and more complicated. Right now, we can deal with molecular weight as large as 1,000 grams per mole. So by using our years of experience and also engineering experience in this crystal structure prediction area, this year we are happy that to offer the software option to the whole industry. By using the software, which means that our client can run the CSP calculation in your own company if you have a private cloud in your company. And then our software has a very intuitive user interface. Even you are not an expert in the solid state, you can still be able to run the calculation by yourself and track the progress clearly in the software. And also, since we are using the cloud computing resources, we are able to do this calculation within like 2 months to give you the full energy landscape and also the free energy calculation result. And also, all the information is tracked and safely stored in your database, and it will follow all the requirements based on ISO or IEC. So here, let's show a real case where we use CSP to fully de-risk the solid form selection. This compound is remdesivir, and it's a COVID drug, and we did a CSP calculation for this molecule. The left figure shows you the energy landscape at 0 Kelvin. The y-axis is the relative lattice energy, and the x-axis is the density. Each dot represents one predicted structure, ideally for these systems. And then we put the two, we noticed that there are 2 unhybrid forms existing in the systems, and they are all predicted successfully in our CSP result. And another thing is that both forms are in the low energy area, which is a very good sign for the scientist. We also solve the crystal structure by CRO-TEM method, and then we compare the structure generated by CSP and CRO-TEM instrument, and you see the agreement is very well, which again demonstrates that the the accuracy of the both methods. After we got this 0 Kelvin energy landscape, we choose 5 lowest energy structures and then perform the free energy calculation. The y-axis is the free energy, delta G, and the x-axis is the temperature. Interestingly, at 0 Kelvin, we see that form 4 was thermodynamically more stable. However, as temperature increases, form 2 became the more stable form. And at ambient condition, form 2 was more stable, and that's why form 2 was chosen as a leading form for further development. So from this example, you can see that CSP can not only give you the idea of how many theoretical structure exists in the systems, but also can tell you which form is a most stable form at ambient conditions. The next part is polymorph strategy recommendation. And this part is actually very challenging one. I believe everyone can know that. Recommend condition for experimental screening to crystallize your targeted polymorphs. This is like world challenging problems. And in XtalPi, we think there are 2 ways to tackle this problem. The first way is called physical model way. But we know that the crystallization process is full of mystery, and the mechanism is not well established and well understood. So the method based on the physical model is not that accurate, and in most cases, it's used for explanation rather than prediction. And another way is called AI data-driven way, which becomes more and more popular in recent years. But for this AI model data-driven method, we need to have a large set of consistent and accurate data in-house, which is, takes a lot of effort. And at XtalPi, we try to combine the two models. First, we use physical model to generate a lot of virtual data, and then train an AI algorithm based on those virtual data. Of course, it's not perfect and it's not that accurate, so we refined our AI model by the experimental data generated by our in-house automation platforms. By this combination, we are able to come up with a crystallization strategy, which we can give you the recommendation for the, we can give you the experimental condition recommendation after we get the API molecular structure. And this whole process can also be used for salt screening and co-crystal screening. Give you recommendation for the co-former, give you recommendation for the counterion, and even the solvent for your experimental design. By doing this, we kind of like strengthen the physical model and AI model, and also we try to avoid the limitation of each method. And here shows you how our automation platform looks like. We design and build it by ourselves. In this workstation, it has balance system, solid dispersing system, liquid handling system, temperature control, and there are even robot arms in the station that can mimic scientists doing experiments. So generally, this station can handle most of the solution methods, such as evaporation method, cooling method, slurry method, anti-solvent addition method, and even vapor diffusion methods. And the one advantage of this station is that it can give you standardized and consistent data. You don't need to rely on scientists to do the experiments, then you can just use the automation station to perform the experiments 24 hours, 7 days. And then you are able to generate a lot of standard data which can be used to train the AI model we developed in-house. And also another advantage of this station is that everything is traced automatically in an electronic way. So we can trace back to see what happens and what's the problem. And we hope to equip this automation station together with our intelligent algorithm together to really increase the efficiency and success rate in the solid form screening. And here, let me show an example. It's like in-house blend test. A scientist did a screening experiment for a compound. He did 200 manual experiments, cost 3.5 weeks, and around 4 gram sample. And then amongst 200 experiments, the powder hit rate was around 87%, which is already reasonable well. And then he found 3 polymorphs in the systems. And as a comparison, we use our intelligent crystallization algorithm to give a recommendation for the experimental work. And the 70 experiments were recommended. And then it was the experiments were done by our automation platform, and it was done within 2 weeks, and only 1.5 gram sample was consumed. In terms of the results, among the 70 experiments, we got a powder hit rate over 92%, which is higher than the scientist, and also we got the same number of discovered forms. Of course, it will be super convincing that if we get more forms right here. But it's really, it's system dependent. And the example we show here tells you the advantage of using this, AI algorithm together with automation. We can do the work with less sample, with faster time, and also with less human resources. Another example is about salt. In this example, the compound is free base can form oil and is amorphous. It doesn't really crystallize well. The preliminary salt screening always yield oil or amorphous material. And then, based on our algorithm, we will give you a new list of counterion you can try, and also more importantly, give you the solvent for the experiments. And if you notice carefully, we recommend solvents different, we recommend different solvents for different container, which really can increase your chemical space in doing experiments. Otherwise, you will if a scientist do the experiment, typically we will try same solvent for all the container, right? But here you can try different solvent, and then from the result you see that the green color are the experiments that we successfully obtained crystalline salts. And after this study, we got some crystalline salt, and at the same time, we also see that the sample indeed always form amorphous. And this example shows the advantage of using our AI algorithm to do experiment before you do the experiments. And last part, I want to talk about CRO-TEM. I think another colleague has already mentioned this technology. It's a relatively new technology compared to single X-ray diffraction. But before, we need to glue single crystal first to try to solve the crystal, right? And then use single XRD or sometimes even synchrotron to solve the crystal structure. The success rate for this process cannot be guaranteed, and it's always limited. The resources are limited, and you may only be able to solve the crystal structure of your most interested form. However, by using CRO-TEM, you can really measure any crystalline structure, any crystal structure of any crystalline powder, as long as you have a crystalline powder within a reasonable amount of time and high success rate. Here shows you some feature and the advantage of using microED. First, it can be used for crystal structure determination. It can be used for salt and co-crystal determination because hydrogen atom is very sensitive to the electron beams. Then it can also be used for structure determination for mixtures, which gives it a huge advantage in doing formulation study. And it can also be used for absolute configuration determination. When you have only limited a few, 10 milligram sample, and you want to know what's the absolute configuration, then this definitely would be the technology you should try first. And there are several advantages that it has high success rate. In a house, we have dealt with over 400 systems, and when we have a well crystalline material, the success rate is over 90%. And also the speed can be as fast as 1 day, and the sample amount consumed can be as low as a few milligrams. Here, I want to show you an example of how we use microED for structure mixture analysis. This is a formulation study. The client did the long-term formulation stability study, and after some time, they observed a few new diffraction peaks appearing in the XRPD. And they want to know where do those peaks come from. They can come from the new form of the API, new form of the excipient, or even new form of the impurity, right? And traditionally, if you want to really solve the problem, you need to do all kinds of parallel experiments, and then maybe you are able to know the answer within a certain time. However, we use microED, we directly mapping out hundreds of particles. In this case, we mapping out 400 particles, and notice that 80 of them, we group the data based on the diffraction pattern, and then we notice that 80 of them belong to the known form of the API, which is a co-crystal. And then we notice there are 4 particles that shows different diffraction pattern. And we solve the structure by using those 4 particle data, and it turned out that it's a new form of the API free base. And then we simulate the theoretical XRPD pattern of this new form, and you see the 2 peaks, they really agree well with the 2 new peaks showing up in the formulation. I think by this example, you can see the value of this technology. And I want to stop my talk here. XtalPi continues to push boundary of the solid state study. And of course, we are not stopping. We will continue to optimize this paradigm shift by more innovation and more collaboration with Solitek. And thank you for your attendance, and I'm happy to take any question in the rest of the day. Thank you.
We do have some time for questions in the audience. Okay. All right. One of the areas in which you are working is about predicting crystallization parameters.
Yes.
My question to you is how you planning to tackle the kinetic effects?
Yeah, that's really the challenging we are facing. Because there is no accurate model to really to describe the kinetic effects. That's why we combine the two models. Remember, we combine the physical model and the data, the AI-driven data model. Because the AI data-driven model really considers the kinetic effect, because the crystallization is a combination of thermodynamic effect and the kinetic effect. And the physical model actually doesn't really take the kinetic effect in consideration. That's why we feel like by combining these two models together, we are able to really consider the crystallization as a overall process and take the kinetic effect into consideration. But to be honest, there's no in our model, there's no qualitative, accurately quantitative way to really take that part effect into consideration. But generally, we feel like it shows some improvement as we have do that in several cases, and we together even provide surveys for clients, and the result did pretty very good. So we hope that, of course, we will not stop here, and the whole industry is still using resources on this area, and we hope in the near future the kinetic part can be some big improvement in this area. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So another question before we break for lunch? No, I think we're all very hungry. Okay. Thank you very much
for
your talk.